Let's move on to a less dangerous sociopath, and a kind of a funnier one.
So
George
much
Santos.
funnier, and also an indicator of what normal times we are living in.
So George Santos facing another indictment from the feds. Put this up here. So the new charges include a bunch of his schemes to basically trick the Republican Party into thinking that he was a more financially viable candidate than he was, so that he would then get financial support from the Republicans, because in both parties, like, you have to show significant amounts of contributions or personal wealth, or else they're just not interested in your candidacy. Now, there's also more pedestrian grifting in here. Basically, Santos was allegedly grabbing his contributors' credit card numbers, and then just running them and moving their money into his personal bank account, into his campaign account, into other candidates' accounts. Now, in order to, it's a brand new kind of straw donor kind of scandal. Usually a straw donor scandal means, okay, you're only allowed to give $6,000 so that, let's say across the campaign. So, but you want to give $50,000 because you've got a lot of money, you really support this person. So you give $6,000, you give $6,000 to your daughter, to $6,000 to your son, to $6,000 to your other son, to your aunt, your uncle, and they all give $6,000 each, and then you spread it around and the campaign gets $50,000. That is illegal. That is one of the few things that is actually prosecuted when it comes to campaign finance left in this world. Now, what he did is he did straw donors, but without any actual money. It was like straw. And so what he did
Yes.
is he had his finance team, who was just getting indicted along with him, and probably flipped on him.
Yeah, his treasurer has pleaded guilty.
Right. What they did is that he gave them the occupation, the address, and the names of a bunch of his relatives. And then they just put them in their spreadsheet and told the FEC and told the Republicans, this person gave us $5,000, this person gave us $5,000. But it didn't actually represent, as far as we can tell from the indictment, money that came from elsewhere. It was just fabricated.
Yeah.
Just made up. And then he said he was going to loan his campaign $500,000.
Yes.
And we all kept wondering, where'd the $500,000 come? Hillary's like, it must be Russia. And I don't know if Hillary said that, but like it was like the Hillary-id type person.
Yes, yeah.
Who was like, it must be Russia that gave him this $500,000. Turns out he didn't have $500,000.
Right, because that was sort of that was for so long, and we've talked about this many times. Yeah. That was one of the biggest questions looming over this: is how on earth did George Santos have $500,000 to lend his campaign? Where did it come from? Why is he not telling us?
And we're all such suckers. The source that he had this money was him,
and
we should have been like, oh. And maybe he's lying.
So the government says that he had less than $8,000 in both of his bank accounts at the time that he claimed to loan $500,000 to his campaign. Now, given the evidence I imagine the government has in this case and George Santos' established pattern of lying, I think it's probably fair to take their word for it. In the superseding indictment here, again, he was originally indicted, pleaded not guilty. This one supersedes that. And he's, I assume, going to plead not guilty to this. I have no idea.
Might as well.
Yeah, I might as well if he's going to keep doing it. But if they're saying he had less than $8,000 in both of his bank accounts, and was claiming to lend $500,000 to his campaign and filed that report with the FEC. It's not that he said, I'm loaning $500,000 to the FEC or to my campaign. He filed that in a report with the FEC, which you can understand then why his campaign treasurer, Nancy Marks, is in a plea agreement right now, because that is damning. He also is accused of just abject credit card fraud. Here's another part. In one instance, the court documents, according to CBS News, unsealed Tuesday, revealed that Santos allegedly racked up $15,800 on a contributor's credit card, a sum far higher than federal campaign laws permit. That donor, quote, did not know or authorize charges exceeding such limits. So he somehow has gotten access by being the Anna Delvey of Congress to people's credit card information, is making unauthorized charges. And the government says he's doing some of this for personal expenses on donors' credit. That is basically unheard of.
It's not the kind of corruption we're used to.
Taking your own donor's credit card information and racking up $16,000 on it, thinking somehow you're not going to get caught. That's really remarkable.
The kind of corruption we're used to is, if you give me gold bars, then I will do official acts on behalf of the Egyptian government.
The
or
donor
whatever.
is in on it, yeah.
Right. Not I'm just going to steal the gold bars from the back of your car. It's like,
Yeah, and you're not going to notice, and I'm going to be in Congress, and everything's going to go fine. It's sociopathic.
I think his scheme was always hinged on not winning. And that was it wasn't his fault. I don't think he tried to win.
Yeah.
But he accidentally won. Democrats, Tom Suozzi beat him in 2020, then didn't run for re-election in 2022. And the people that they put up were just a mess. And so he's like, uh-oh, now what? He must have had the most mixed feelings on his election night.
Well, and I think that there's always two important things to keep in mind with this. One is that a lot of this happened in the shadow of local media, which has been diminished to the point where, or I should say, it happened in the shadow of media not existing, local media basically not existing anymore. There was an outlet in Long Island that was doing a pretty good job of this, but it was one. It was Galeman's work, but when you don't have local media digging into the stuff, these primaries, digging into these like lower level elections, you end up with stuff exactly like this. And then on the other hand, Republicans had opposition research because you do what's called a vulnerability study that was conducted by a top firm for George Santos. So the vulnerability study goes through all kinds of stuff, not this specific, but all kinds of red flags with George Santos that if anybody's campaign got that vulnerability report, all the consultants would quit and be like, absolutely not. Everybody on the campaign would quit and be like, absolutely not.
Oh, it's like, he says he worked for Goldman Sachs. Google turns up, no.
And it's a powerful enough group of people that were working on this vulnerability report that you imagine. I have a hard time believing this didn't make its way around the New York Republican Party. And a lot of conservatives have said this is the eagerness of sort of the Republican Party's establishment to say we have an intersectional sort of gay Hispanic Republican, and New York is, there's a red wave that's going to wash across New York. Look at this George Santos guy. He's a gay Hispanic and he's a Republican. Look at us go. And that's how you end up with George Santos, because everybody just says it's worth it to put someone in there that checks kind of the boxes that allow you to trot him out as a diversity trophy for Republicans, as opposed to actually somebody who can serve as constituents.
And they're like, and it's a lack of civic responsibility. They're like, it's not our problem. Like, Democrats need to figure it out, and the media needs to figure it out. And if they don't, then it's on y'all.
Whoops. Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, thank you, George Santos. That was fun, and we really needed that. Up next, we're going to be joined by Yusuf Munayyer, the head of the Palestine-Israel program at the Arab Center in Washington, D.C. Stick around for that.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.
Help us build independent news and get the full show every morning at breakingpoints.com.